Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the ReadyCloud Mobility Executive Breakfast. Look, the pace has really kicked off. We really appreciate you taking the time to start your day with us this morning. I'm Dave Shannon. I lead our mobility practice here at Gen-i, or shall I say Spark Digital Solutions. So our new name, I thought I'd give it a go. That's all about the digital future, and mobility is at the core of that. So this morning I woke up, my alarm went off on my smartphone. Before I knew it, I was checking LinkedIn and I thought, crikey, this is all around us. Mobility is exploding. And, you know, with cloud, mobile, data, social, you know, it is all around us. And I heard Maliki here, I'm going to introduce you to him soon. 36% of people check their smartphones before they say hello to their partners. Now, I know there's not in this room, of course. But it's changing how we live our lives personally. And that demand and that appetite and that expectation of mobility in your businesses has grown massively. So you've got to deliver mobility for your clients, for your people, for your boards and for your executives. And everyone expects it. So it's not about if or when you do mobility, it's more about how you do mobility. But when you look at this stat up here, 71% think mobility, or executives think mobility is strategic, but 18% only have a comprehensive plan of how they're going to get there. And that's because mobility is actually quite complicated to navigate through. You've got to think about your connectivity, your 4G, 3G, Wi-Fi. You've got to think about security with mobile device management. You've got to think about the platform that you run mobility on. You know, with your application platform and more a machine-to-machine platform. You've got to think about the applications themselves, and you've got to make sure those applications integrate into your back-end systems, because that's where the real value is. So look, today is all about focusing on your businesses, which are field-intensive businesses. You've got large assets in the field, and in partnership with SAP, we've built ReadyCloud Mobility Platform. And the goal of today is to show you that we've done the heavy lifting with SAP, so you can drive mobility into your businesses faster, and you can prove the benefits of mobility faster. And in your companies, the value of mobility should be very simple. If you can prove 15 minutes per day per technician, your business cases will usually stack up. And often that's more like 10 to 20% of time savings. So that's a day of work for your field workers to win more business, to do more jobs, to meet your contractual SLAs, which is very valuable for you. And by offering mobility as a service, because we're delivering to you this to you as a cloud offering, we've made mobility affordable. So it means that you don't have to invest a huge amount up front. You can trial mobility and you can get those you can invest as you grow, and you can prove those benefits in your business. We're going to demonstrate Work Manager today. It's one of the fastest growing applications for SAP globally, and that's because it delivers real efficiency gains. So to do that, I'm going to pass you over to Maliki Martin. Maliki runs mobility for the Asia region for SAP, and John Wilson here, who is their senior technical advisor. And that's one of the things, and one of the great things about the partnerships at which we're bringing into the New Zealand market in mobility, because we want to bring you the insight and really bring these technologies into New Zealand. So I'll pass over to Maliki and we'll get into our presentation.
Thanks very much, Dave. Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to be able to talk to you today about the mobility solutions that we're offering in partnership with Gen-i. We've been working in mobility for quite some time now, and SAP is actually recognised as the leader in enterprise mobility globally by analysts such as Gartner and IDC, etc. So a little bit about me. I've been working in mobility now for quite some time, back when it was actually something unique, okay, way before the late Steve Jobs and all those guys got their hands on it. I was working in what was truly mobility, as in a small percentage of an organization working remote from the back-end system, and delivering solutions on these newfangled small form factor devices that had come from Microsoft, okay? The first project I worked on in the UK was with National Grid, who had taken their back-end systems and they had pushed the data out onto what was then a Fujitsu Pencentra tablet, okay? This was actually a tablet device that responded to touch from a stylus. It was way back a long time ago. We've obviously moved on significantly since then. So I want to talk to you today about mobility, about what mobility means in the context of extending the enterprise. I want to talk to you about what mobility means for SAP, what mobility means in the context of our partnership with Gen-i, and how mobility is changing, enhancing, and transforming the way that the enterprises that we work with are actually operating today. So it's about extending and delivering that final 10-15% of productivity, efficiency, effectiveness, and making it real on mobile devices in the field. So a lot about what we do specifically with respect to the partnership with Gen-i is with asset-intensive industry, okay? SAP acquired a company a couple of years ago, a company called Cyclo, and that solution portfolio that we're bringing into the discussions with Gen-i is really driving and enhancing how asset-intensive companies are working today. You know, you'll know that the typical asset-intensive enterprise has got many, many thousands, if not millions, of components and assets. And these are distributed across a wide area. And the people that touch them, the field workers, the field technicians, the operations staff, they're also distributed. They're working sometimes long distances from the depot, sometimes for long duration as well. It's not just even a 1 hour, 2 hour job. They're working on something over a period of days, maybe even weeks. And really, from that point of view, the notion of using paper, writing down information, capturing data that might make its way into the back office system is very much where a lot of organizations have been and are still operating, okay? And really, from our point of view, we're looking at how mobility can change the way that the asset-intensive company, or in fact anybody who's got assets at all, whether that's the need for facilities management, etc., how they can take advantage of our solutions and how they can use those solutions to capture the data once and to drive that data into the back end so that they're able to make much more proactive decisions around how to manage their company, how to manage the assets and the equipment that they're working with, and become more proactive about how they are dealing with that, rather than always being reactive to a fault. So from that point of view, what we're trying to drive are solutions that are capturing data at the point of work, at the point of performance, and driving that data into the back office systems so that people in the back office, the maintenance policy director, the asset policy director, are able to make decisions around this data and are able to drive and manage and run their business a lot better, run the assets a lot longer, and actually drive efficiencies through that type of approach. So, you know, from our point of view, there are so many assets out there today. You know, we know that these assets are being touched by people, and we know that these assets are also feeding information back in the whole new machine-to-machine Internet of Things type way, okay? And these assets are really, they're pointing that data back to the system so that decisions can be made about how to operate and how to run and how to continue to manage a business effectively. And really, from our point of view, we're talking about how this data can change the way that someone defines their operations. They can change the way that they exhibit their policies into the field, and they can actually change the way that the asset is operated, maintained, inspected, and driven. National Grid in the UK, I remember many years ago working with them in their electricity transmission business. The first time that we worked with them, the asset policy director stood up and he said, we only really know about 43% of the asset install base, because they had done a lot of work on paper. They had never fed this information into the back office system, and therefore they really were totally unclear about more than 50% of the assets that were installed in the UK. Now today, the same role, the same guy in that asset maintenance policy position would talk about being aware of 97% of the assets that are there. They have put in place a regime that is driven around mobility. Every touch on the asset is done through mobility. Now they've had a lot of work in terms of how they use their back office system as well. So in National Grid, they use, in electricity transmission, they use a system from a company in Australia called Ellipse, okay? And it's actually owned and operated by Ventix and ABB. And that's in their electricity transmission business. In their gas distribution business, they use SAP, okay? And we work with companies that are using these systems, they're using IBM Maximo, and they're driving solutions around how they operate. So the key question that people are asking around why should I mobilize is really based around, you know, how do I maximize my return on investment for my physical assets? How do I make sure that all asset-related risks and all asset-related operations are handled effectively? How do I make sure that I can give back to the field worker that extra few minutes to increase wrench time, as they call it in the States? You know, and from what Dave said, you know, if you can give back just 15 minutes per day to a field technician, already we've seen organizations return all of the work order backlog is driven straight away off the balance sheet because they're actually able to get to do the job they're meant to do. BP actually gave back 1 hour per day to their field technicians. They had been applying to their board for many years for extra resources to deliver capital projects. Pardon me. They've been asking for additional people to help them do those jobs. So when they implemented mobility, they gave back 1 hour per day, and they freed up a lot of resources who then were able to be pumped into those capital projects. So there are all sorts of benefits that can be had through this solution as well. So the key thing is about mobilizing the process. It's about mobilizing the people that do that process, and it's about delivering solutions and data capture solutions that actually make the field worker work in the way that they want to work and the way they should work. Mobile device becomes a tool just as much as a wrench or any other tool that they use is in their van. The mobile device becomes a tool that they want to use as well. And the different types of mobile devices, and John will do a demo for you later on an iPad, for example. But you know, in asset-intensive industry, you could be talking about something like this. So this is a rugged tablet device, okay? This is a rugged Android device. And the good thing about it is that you can actually throw it around. You know what I mean? You don't have to care about whether you drop it or whether you drive over it, because it's actually designed to work in that environment. Now, it does cost a little bit more, but the bottom line is that these types of devices are what I need to use. This is my tool for helping me to do my job. And really, from that point of view, we have seen that mobility being delivered on a mobile device doesn't always have to be in a sexy smartphone or a sexy tablet. It has to be in the device that I want to use, okay? And from our point of view, our solution operates across all these devices. It operates across all of the back-end systems that our traditional user base are using. And we want to make sure that it's delivering value. It's delivering that extra 10% in terms of what I do, the way I work, and how I receive and operate that in the field. So the key thing for us about joining up with Gen-i is that we want to make sure that we're delivering a solution that also can be consumed in the way that you guys want to consume it. So offering ReadyCloud Mobility as an extension of what Gen-i can offer is really, from our point of view, was a key differentiator in how we're approaching the market here in New Zealand. Every company that we're talking to, everybody who needs to mobilize their field force, we're now able to offer our solutions and drive those solutions out into our industries by enabling it on the Gen-i cloud. Gen-i can stand up the back office environment, they can stand up the infrastructure that's required in order to deliver these solutions. And that's really a key thing for us in terms of operating the solution and driving these solutions out to our field force. So some of the aspects of mobility there are a lot of benefits that come automatically from a capture once use many way of working. But we really like to focus on some of the other core benefits that come from that. So around safety, around productivity of the workforce, but also around compliance, making sure that the work is done correctly, making sure that the workflow and the correct steps are followed in terms of operating and capturing this data in the field. And we've got a lot of examples of companies who've seen a return on their investment through an uplift in the number of jobs that are being completed in the field. Now, a lot of that may come from visibility, okay? When an organization operates off a paper-based system, the data doesn't always make its way into the back office system. So the true visualization of what has been done, who it was done by, when it was done, and actually today where it was done because of technology is key to how people operate. We have got organizations who, for example, have had incidents in the field where perhaps there has been a fatality, and they are now able to track and trace the work that was performed, the skill set of the person performing it, and as I said, above all, where it was actually performed. Many well-documented cases of work being performed in McDonald's, okay? You might find that a bit weird, but actually, a lot of these people develop a pattern around how they do their job. And they repeat those tasks. When you've got paper, they simply fill in the same information they filled in the last time, and that's what makes its way into the back office system. With embedded GPS or GIS in the solution, you can pinpoint right down to, say, within 10 meters as to where somebody was when they performed the job. You can make sure they don't log on to the job unless they're standing next to the asset that they're meant to maintain. So those are the sorts of things that we can bring through in the system now today. I want to talk to you about one particular case study that we have with Transfield in Australia. Transfield working very much in the services and the contract business for a lot of utilities and other companies. Transfield have many contracts. They have a huge field force, upwards on 40,000 staff across all of the contracts that they're operating. Transfield took the Work Manager solution, the same application that John will talk to you about, the application that's delivered through our partnership with Gen-i, and they rolled it out to their field force. They rolled it out to these guys on iPads. They didn't want the rugged device because they wanted the person in the field to feel a bit of ownership around this device. They wanted them to be, for want of a better expression, proud of the fact that they're carrying an iPad and they're able to come home into their family with their kids and actually put their iPad down on the table, because that's what I use to do my job. And these guys are receiving jobs when they switch on the iPad in the morning. They're taking photographs of the assets that they're working on. They have GPS embedded so that they're able to identify exactly where the defect has been found. And so from that point of view, they're capturing a lot more information. Having implemented the project, Transfield were able to realize a significant amount of benefit, okay? They saw that their fuel consumption dipped by 20%. Their productivity increased significantly. And also, interesting stat at the bottom left here around work order completion. They suddenly had 80% more work order completion as a result of implementing the solution. Now, I think that's a big factor on visibility. They are seeing the jobs actually being completed for the first time. And, what does that mean? What that means is that they're able to plan more effectively. They're able to actually use their back office system in the way it was designed to be used. They're able to anticipate breakdown. They're able to anticipate what work needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and how it needs to be done. And from that point of view, they are driving a new sense of efficiency around their workforce. I met with Transfield in November last year in Sydney, and the guy, the strategic architect, asked me at the time, he said, who else are you selling this solution to at the moment? And I said, yeah, well, we're working with UGL, we're working with Fulton Hogan, we're going to help them drive efficiency in their business as well. And he stopped me and he said, please do not sell this solution to those guys. Because when they get it, they're going to come right back up to the same level I'm on in terms of my competition. I am ahead of the game in terms of how I'm delivering solutions and how I'm enabling my workforce today. I do not need you selling this to my competitors because, that gives me a whole new conundrum to deal with. Now, I was able to save up some more functionality and some more sexiness. I could put them way ahead of them again, but, that's neither here nor there. Those are the types of things that we can deliver. So really, I want you to take away from this that the solutions that you're going to hear about, what you're going to see from John and the partnership that we have with Gen-i is founded on these effective data capture solutions. Our solutions are built on our SAP mobile platform. We are, and I'm not averse to saying this, we are the best mobile enterprise company in the world by a street, okay? By a long way. And that's why we want people to take advantage of our solutions. I represent SAP Mobility. I don't represent SAP ERP or SAP Finance or SAP CRM. I represent SAP Mobility. And for SAP, mobility is the new front end. Everything we're doing, whether it's productivity of staff within an organization, whether it's helping employees complete their timesheet, book their leave, etc. Whether it's about delivering data capture at the point of work, we have the solutions and we have that based on a platform that is recognized as the best solution on the market. And we really are delivering solutions that are not just founded on something we dreamt up a couple of years ago. They're founded on technology that's been around for a very long time. The field worker solutions that we're offering through the Gen-i platform, plus the extension of our platform in terms of being able to build your own applications, define how the workforce is going to work moving forward. That is all based on many years of technical experience. It's based on acquiring companies who've been playing this game for a very long time. And I represent SAP Mobility because I can mobilize anything. Our solutions mobilize not just SAP. They mobilize IBM Maximo, they mobilize Oracle, they mobilize the back ends in a way that is agnostic from the way that people normally operate within those systems. And they deliver that true way of working to all of our clients. So I want to hand over to John because he's going to talk to you now a little bit about the actual applications, how they operate, types of devices that you can use them on, and the functionality that is being delivered through our solutions. And thank you very much again for giving me the time to talk to you.
All right. Thanks, Will. So what Malachi's covered is, the mobile story from SAP. It's a very broad portfolio. There are literally hundreds of different applications that SAP offers in the mobile space. And what we're talking about today, though, is a scenario really around that field force. And so there's a small number of applications that I want to focus in on. And then we'll do a demonstration of one of these to give you a bit of a feel for how they look and how they feel and how they work. So the first one is SAP Work Manager. And this is really around managing your assets out in the field. So you have your work, and that might be planned work, routine maintenance. It might be unscheduled work, that's a result of a breakdown or a failure. But you have that work, you have the activities that need to be done, you have the parts that need to be used, and you need to record your time and the parts that you've used against that work. And so with SAP Work Manager, you're able to take those processes and give them to your people in the field so that they can do those activities at the same time as they're actually doing the work. So they don't have to write everything down, come back into the depot or the office, find a terminal, log on, and enter all of that back into the system at the end of the shift. They can do that while they're out in the field. And all of a sudden you can start capturing that richer information that Malachi talked about, the photos, the accurate GPS information, the accurate timing of when I started and when I finished. because I'm capturing it at the time. The second application is Inventory Manager. So this is around more your stores, your warehouses, being able to manage the inventory that I have on hand, so being able to count that quickly, and quite often, using devices that have built-in scanners. So if I have my inventory barcoded or RFID tagged, I can use devices that have got these scanners and use these applications. So instead of having to type in material numbers and I can scan. And so we have incredible stories about the reduction of time that it takes to perform a stock take inside a warehouse or inside a store, when you're able to mobilize and have a device that has a scanner on it. Very quickly you can have tremendous efficiencies in the data entry that needs to occur. It's not just stock taking, it's receiving goods in and out. It's being able to issue those goods onto jobs as well. And so it's everything from your large warehouses, your smaller stores, all the way down to the stock that I have in my van. So being able to know in all of my trucks that are out in the field, what stores, what stocks do I have in each one? And that's tremendously useful, because for a guy who's in the field who needs a particular part, he may not have it in his truck, but rather than going all the way back to the warehouse, he may be able to get it from someone else's and be able to transfer it from one to another. So, again, all about giving the visibility of that information so that people can make the decisions. Do I need to go back to the warehouse, or is there a better way? And without that information, you can't make that decision correctly. And the last of the applications that I'll talk about today, SAP Rounds Manager. So this is around an inspection process. So rather than a works-based process, this is an inspection-based process. So where you have regular inspections, so you may have assets that need to be inspected on a periodic basis. So in the transport area, it might be things like bridges or track or roads that require periodic inspection. Inside facilities, it's quite often things like fire extinguishers, safety, various safety mechanisms that need to be checked on a periodic basis. And so Rounds Manager can be used to manage that process, to give the field worker a list of the information that they need to check, and make it easy to lead them through that process. So basically they can step through it. And all of these applications have the same thing in common, that they're all about workflowing the process. So giving the right information at the right time and allowing the field worker to be able to enter their information in line with that process. So what I want to do now is give you a bit of a demonstration of the SAP Work Manager product. So we can see here my iPad, and what I'm going to do is open up the Work Manager application. And so rather than a field worker having to go into the depot and get their briefing and have the papers handed out that have been, that they've spent an hour printing and collating beforehand, the principle of Work Manager is I can do that while I'm having my cup of coffee, that I can synchronize that information down to my device. And once it's here on my device, I don't need to be connected again. So I can go out into the field, I can go out of communications, and I have everything I need here on my device. And so what we see in this application on the left-hand side here is a list of all my work orders. And so I can scroll through that list, I can select different work orders on that list, and we've brought down all the information that you need to understand. So you get the detail of that work order, you get the operations that need to be done, so these are the activities that need to occur to complete this work order. I can get a list of the components or the parts that I need to use for this work order, so this is all the planned information. I can add to this. So when I'm out in the field, if I find that there is an activity that needs to be done that wasn't planned, I can add it. If there's a part that needs to be used which wasn't planned, I can add that as well. So I'm getting that accurate picture of exactly what was done, not what I thought was needed to be done. I can attach documents, drawings. So if I have something like a safety information, or this might be a manual or a drawing that's related to my asset, So it doesn't just have to be necessarily the data that's just in that back-end system. It could be linked information from a document management system or from another enterprise system that complements that work order. And with a mobile solution, you can bring that information together. So from the point of the field worker, there's no difference. They don't need to know that there's multiple systems at the back, because for them, there is only one system in their hand. So what I want to do is run through, I guess, a simple process of a work order here. So I've got a work order on my device, and just go through the process of completing that work order, just to show how simple that process is. So I have the status for the work order at the bottom here, and I can see with this particular work order, it's in a received status. So I have my little grey arrow, and I'm going to click this play button, which is my start. So I'm going to say, right, I've reviewed that work order, and now I'm going to start it. And I can see immediately the statuses change here. I now have options to put that work order on hold, to transfer it, or to complete it. But before I do any of those, I'm going to go into my operations for that work order so I can see the activities that need to occur. And I'm going to complete the first one of these operations. So I've done that bit of work. And so immediately, I mentioned before the workflow. So here the application is prompting me to say, well, look, you've completed something. Do you want to add your time for this? So rather than waiting until later and trying to remember, well, what did I do? How long did it take? I can straight away say, yes, I want to add my time here. And it takes me through to the timesheet. And actually the application has been tracking my time since I opened it up to see, well, how long have you been working? So it's prompting me here to say, well, look, you've been going for 30 minutes already. Is that the time that you want to record? So actually, as you work through, you maybe don't actually need to change the information that's here. Just check it and make sure that it's correct. Now, I might say, well, yes, it is 30 minutes. If I do activity type recording, I can record what type of activity it was. So in this case, maybe a repair. And that's all I need, because the information about the work order and the operation that I'm working on is all in the context of this workflow. So that information is already there. So I finished that. I've completed my operation, I've entered my time. All done in sequence with the work that I'm doing. Let's say I used some parts on this work order. So I can see here are the parts that were planned. And so I can see the first part was planned to use 1. If I issue that part, so I'm recording what I've actually used, let's say I used 2. I didn't actually use 1 at all. I can record that I've used 2. And as simple as that, I've entered in the parts that I've used. So really simple workflows, really simple processes, but done in the context of your work. So very quickly, I'm capturing all of that information. Now I could go through and do that for all the other operations, for all the other components if I needed. In the interest of time though, I'll just complete the work there. And so I can complete, it's going to complete other attached, in this case, notifications. Tells me it's going to do that. I can add notes if I need to, so. I can sign for it. So Malachy mentioned, the idea that we can capture the time that things are done, the location that things are done. So if you have a device that's got built-in GPS, but then I can also get physical signatures. And that's going to become an image that's going to get attached up to my work order, so I can go back later and look at that. Or it could be in the case where I'm doing the work for someone else, I might ask them to sign. We've all had the parcels, delivered from post. It's the same process, right? So I can get that physical record of who signed off on that work. And then because I'm completing this work order, it asks me again, do you have any more time that you need to add to finish this off? You cancel that. And there we go. I've gone through my work order, I've completed my activities, I've issued my parts, and I've completed the work order. Job done. Move on to the next one. And all of that information that I'm entering gets synchronized up into my back-end system, be it my SAP back-end, my Maximo back-end, my Oracle back-end, whatever back-end it needs to be. I can attach other information to this work order if I need to. So I could upload a picture, upload a document. I could take measurements. So if there's meters or gauges associated with this piece of equipment, I could record those measurements and synchronize those as well. But let's say I notice that there's other work that needs to be done in the field. So I have all my planned work here, but I notice that there's another activity. I can actually create new notifications in the field or new work in the field. So I'm just going to go through that process very briefly. So this is an essential part of any maintenance process, is using the eyes and ears that you have out there to understand the work that needs to be done. And if you ask people to write this down and come and enter it later, it may or may not happen. But if you give them the tools to be able to identify it on the spot, very quickly you find your number of in-field originated notifications or work orders rapidly goes up, and that's exactly what we saw with Transfield. So, very simple process. Again, it's all about making the process simple and easy. So I have a maintenance request here. It might be, say, for a switch cable. I go and choose my equipment. Now, if I have a device that has a scanner, I could just scan that piece of equipment, use the RFID tag, immediately I know which one it is. If I don't, I can use the information, again, all locally here on my device about the equipment that we have to search for it. So I'm just going to search for V-2, so one of our pumps. So I've got my pump, and immediately, you know, I can then just enter in the damage. So I can say, okay, it's a bit worn. Where is it? It's on the case. I can add descriptions, I can add notes. I hit finish, and there we go. I've created a new notification in the field. Now, as well as that, I could attach a photo, things like that. So make it very easy for people, just a couple of steps, to be able to capture that information, send that back to our central planners, who can then start scheduling that work, and maybe that becomes a work order for someone to complete another time. So just a really, I guess, brief introduction and demonstration of the types of functionality that are available. There's actually a lot more that the application can do as well. If you have a backend that supports linear assets, for example, you're able to record the start and end points for work. So if you're maintaining something like a road or a pipe, you can say it was at the 1 kilometre mark that this work needed to be done. So all those types of capabilities are in this application as well, and they can be configured on or off depending on the capabilities of your back-end system. So I'll leave it there in terms of the demonstration. What I did want to do, though, there's one particularly good case study here in New Zealand, which is the Department of Conservation. And they've actually recorded a little video, and so I might let Mike Edgington from the Department of Conservation have the last word.
The Department of Conservation looks after the protection of all the natural heritage of New Zealand. We've got a pretty large responsibility to ensure that New Zealand's biodiversity is protected, but also to ensure that the public have access to those places. IT is an essential part of the department's infrastructure, and it forms the foundations of what we have to do. In my area of work, managing assets is all about managing the data that's associated with them. We've got approximately 15,000 inspections to do every year, and we have around about 100,000 work orders that we manage each year through plant maintenance. Inside our current SAP landscape, we've implemented the finance management module, the fixed asset management module, the plant management module, and we've just finished implementing Work Manager. SAP Work Manager is our in-field data collection tool. I've got approximately 350 rangers who are using that to manage their work orders, and 25 inspection staff who are also using Work Manager to manage all of the inspections of these assets. It really is changing the lives of these rangers. It's removing the frustration of data management that we had before. Data transfers were taking too long, and so they didn't actually like using it in the field. Their job is to manage assets to ensure that visitors are safe out there and that they have a good time. They can focus on that and keeping themselves safe, because these places are dangerous places to work. SAP Work Manager is enabling me to get the data that I need to provide strategic advice and to ensure that when we're reporting back to Parliament, we have correct and accurate information.
SAP Work Manager helps us be more effective by reducing the downtime and the delays in transmitting data, and gives us a platform to make sure that other people know what's required out on this island. Transmitting the information takes 5 to 10 minutes, often less than a minute if it's not a lot of data there, much faster than the hours it used to take.
The SAP services were part of the implementation team and the design and architecture team, and that was pretty important because that SAP Work Manager specialist was able to introduce us to a lot wider functionality inside the system. Definitely it helped us implement right the first time. Our mission is really around making New Zealand the greatest living space on earth, and that is pretty inspiring for most of us who work here.
I see SAP contributing to the Department of Conservation and providing programs and services to allow us to continue to be in a position to offer that to people.
We've been working with SAP since 2003, and so they are definitely a partner in our conservation mission. I'm Mike Edgington. I'm the Manager for Recreation and Historic in the Department of Conservation, and I run SAP.